minority people, right out of college, and nobody does that nowadays. How many college students now can't get jobs? That's so tragic. It used to be, you go to college and get a job, like you're already guaranteed. Now these kids come out of school and they don't have jobs. It's so sad. Come out of college and go work at McDonald's. And then you wipe in all that money and all that money. So I have actually a lot of friends who work there, and who worked there over time, and people work with me in my organization. So when I thought about who I wanted to speak, she's actually the first person that came to mind, and she said she would do it. So here she is, Manna Jo.
Thank you for inviting me. And what I'm going to do is share with you the roots of my activism, which started in the civil rights movement. When I was 17 years old, circumstances in my family led me to leave high school just a few months before graduating. I was keenly aware and had been closely following the civil rights movement and the amazing courage that it demonstrated at that time. You cannot imagine what things were like before the passage of the Civil Rights Bill. There was violent racism in the South, and there was de facto racism in the North. And I was living in Bridgeport, Connecticut at the time, and me and some friends were talking about, in particular, the housing situation and how there was de facto segregation in the North at that time. And people that lived in a black neighborhood would be charged more money for less services and ended up living in deplorable conditions. So we formed the first chapter of the Bridgeport chapter of the Congress of Racial Equality in 1963. And we organized rent strikes. And we were somewhat effective, but we needed a boost. We really needed to make people aware of the need and get more people to join us in our work. And so we called James Farmer and asked him to invite Dr. King on our behalf to come to Bridgeport. And as secretary of the chapter, now by then I was about 18, I wrote all the letters and helped make the transportation arrangements and so forth. And Dr. King came and spoke in a church, and about 600 people came out that night. And that was the boost we needed to really do substantial organizing in Bridgeport. And then a few months later was the famous I Have a Dream March on Washington. And we organized busloads of people from Bridgeport and Norwalk and Stamford and drove to Washington, D.C. And when we got to the march, we marched very close to the podium, and I worked my way up so that I was only a few feet from Dr. King as he gave his I Have a Dream speech. And then a few months later, the Civil Rights Bill was going through Congress, and I was asked to go to Washington to lobby for the Civil Rights Bill. And, I barely knew what kind of outfit to wear or what to say, but they trained us. And my experience there made a very deep impression on me. During the day, I would go to the hallowed halls of Congress, and being from the North, we were treated pretty respectfully at the offices of people like Senator Javits, Senator Jacob Javits, Abraham Ribicoff, and some of you may remember. But when we went on to the gallery to watch the proceedings at Congress, we were treated extremely disrespectfully, particularly by the Southern Democrats. We were called names, nigger and nigger lover, and anything you can imagine. And the sheer raw bigotry coming off the floor of the elected officials in Congress. I was 18 years old, and it was extremely disillusioning. And then in the evening, I would go back, and we were hosted by local African American families, and we would enjoy the warmth and the music and the good food and the love. And then the next day go back and face the abuse from the hallowed halls of Congress. And so I lobbied first when it was in the House of Representatives, and a few months later, I was now considered an experienced lobbyist, and I was invited to come back as the bill went through the Senate. And we knew that Lyndon Johnson would not veto the bill if there was enough strength to pass it. So we watched as the roll call vote resulted in the Civil Rights Bill passing. And in a jubilant way, we all went back to the organizing office for the Civil Rights Movement, for the passage of the bill. And I remember linking arms, basically a little kid from Bridgeport, Connecticut, with the giants, Dr. King and Ralph Abernathy and Andrew Young and James Farmer, and all of the civil rights great leaders were in the room at that time. And from that moment on, I was empowered for life. You could never tell me you can't change things, or you can't fight City Hall. We had fought and we had won and we had overcome one of the most difficult obstacles in the history of this nation. Now it's taken generations to make the progress, and the job is nowhere near done. But the work that Michael is doing and this young man and all of us together will eventually manifest Dr. King's dream. I now work for Clearwater. I've worked in every major movement, from the Civil Rights Movement, which kind of morphed into ending the war in Vietnam, at Dr. King's guidance, and also the guidance of Pete Seeger and others like them. The women's movement, the environmental movement, and now the environmental justice movement and the climate justice movement. And it's really been a great honor and a privilege to help carry out Dr. King's legacy, and Pete Seeger's legacy, and Paul Robeson's legacy. And I want to close with 3 quotes from Dr. King that I think are especially relevant today. Wars are poor chisels for carving out peaceful tomorrows. This is the hour. This is the hour in history. This hour in history needs transformed nonconformists. The saving of our world from impending doom will not come from the actions of a conforming majority, but from the creative maladjustment of a transformed minority. And then we all know the most powerful quote from Dr. King, that darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that.